All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Diana, and I am the head of research and sustainability at Global Blockchain Business Council. It is a pleasure to welcome you today to GBBC's Virtual Members Forum on Asset Tokenization Needs a Revolution with Nexera. We are a bi-weekly webinar showcasing the innovative work of our members around the world. And today we are joined by Rachid Ajaja, founder and CEO at Nexera Foundation, and Diana Tlupova, head of compliance at Evergon, formerly Nexera Finance, and they're all under the umbrella of Nexera. It's important that tokenizing assets marks a pivotal shift in digital ownership, but the real challenge lies in market adoption. Rachid and Diana will delve into how we can ensure how these tokenized assets are created, actively traded, and seamlessly integrated into Web2 and Web3 frameworks, while remaining compliant with regulation and interoperable with legacy systems. GBBC member Nexera is advancing finance with an open source infrastructure, seamlessly blending blockchain technology for streamlined management of digital, financial, and real-world assets. Evergon, rebranded from Nexera Finance, empowers institutions and businesses to compliantly issue, manage, and trade tokenized financial and real-world assets. Briefly, before we begin, I would also like to introduce Rachid and Diana. So Rachid is a serial entrepreneur with a flair for modeling, analytics, quantitative analysis, and data science. He started Nexera to be a pioneering company in real-world asset tokenization within decentralized finance. Nexera delivers innovative open source financial technology solutions, enabling seamless integration with traditional and legacy systems, and making it easier to leverage decentralized technology, including real-world asset tokenization and DeFi. With over 15 years of professional experience, Rachid is a recognized thought leader in the DeFi and real-world asset tokenization and quantitative fields. He serves as a strategic advisor to multiple startups and has spoken at prestigious industry events, including the European Commission, Plug and Play Silicon Valley Summit, Consensus, and CV Summit. Diana Tlupova is head of compliance for Evergon and Nexera, and she is responsible for compliance operations and regulatory affairs. Before joining, Diana built global compliance programs at 2 top centralized exchanges and also worked for the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK, where she developed regulations for consumer credit markets. Rachid and Diana will both explore strategies that bridge the gap between traditional digital experiences and the emerging Web3 ecosystem, ensuring the tokenized asset revolution reaches its full potential. To the audience, we welcome your questions at any point during today's presentation. Please submit them in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we will take them at the end. So thank you, Rachid and Diana, for joining us, and I will hand things over to you to begin.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Diana. And thank you, GBBC, for having us for an amazing webinar. Let me share my screen. And here we go. So today's topics is very important topic. So we have been hearing a lot about tokenization the last few months. So actually, tokenization is not something new. Before, in the financial industry, we're speaking about securitization. And then we started actually, like even in 2019, when we started first time speaking about tokenization and STO, security token offering. And then with the rise of DeFi, and the protocols. Like lately, we saw again the tokenization waves, the real world assets, and a lot of use cases, including many institutions, banks, funds, and many other enterprises that are into this field. But we do believe that tokenization is revolution. There is a lot of use cases, real use cases that exist already for real estate, art, funds like we saw with BlackRock. But in order to have the widespread of tokenization, we need a revolution. This revolution for us is twofold. There's revolution in terms of technology, and here it's specifically about standardization and interoperability. How can we have standard? How can we make this different standard interoperable? Either speaking about blockchains or speaking about just like standards within the blockchain. And then the second is regulations and compliance. So as we know, always regulations are behind and the space is moving so fast. So we need to have also revolution in compliance, even though we are seeing a lot of different regulations coming like MiCA, VARA, and so on. So there are still a lot of unclarities. So this is why if we want to have this widespread, we need revolution. So if we take a step back, digitalization has revolutionized the money and payment system. So we call it a lot digital transformation. And I always like to speak about one specific example. So DBS Bank in Singapore. So back in 2014, it was one of the worst banks that exists. It was not really good bank. The customer were not satisfied with the services. And in less than 1 year, they become one of the top digital bank in the world, in Singapore and in the world. And by the way, it became also Harvard case study. So what they did, instead of investing to be able to replace completely their legacy system, they just build layers on top of their legacy system that can connect to APIs and SDK so they can provide more services for their customers and faster. And like this, they managed to get more customer, better user experience, and better user journey to serve their customers. And then we started to speak about everything around neobank, and we have all these different applications now that is make it super easy in terms of payment, in terms of remittance, in terms of access to our accounts. And also, we saw huge support of the regulation that come later on, which some of you know is PSD2. Now we have an open banking. We have PSD3 and PSR that is coming. So all these regulations manage actually to bring this word about this digital transformation reality. And even though we have this regulation, we needed a revolution in terms of technology. How can banks give access to their data in a unified way? And this is where we say the Berlin Group initiative, which is not so protocol open source to communicate between banks, and it was done by 27 different banks that give access to this Berlin protocol. And this is how companies that are doing open banking interaction with the different banks. So we have an example of this revolution that already happened. Now, we believe, and I'm sure most of you believe, that tokenization is the next evolution. And we have been hearing this a lot. Now, imagine a world when you have your app, where you have your accounts, and you have all your assets, normal assets, tokenized assets, and you want to buy a house. You can pay with cash, but you can also pay with some tokenized equity that you have, some part of tokenized real estate or tokenized equity or tokenized whatever types of assets that you have digitized in your wallet or in your application. And everything will be done on the fly, the conversion and the payments, instant settlements, and then the one that want to sell, he will receive almost instantly the money. So this is exactly where we are going. But of course, in order to go there, we need a lot of steps. And one of them is, of course, this revolution that we are speaking about, this standardization, interoperability, and also the compliance and regulation. So we saw what's happened with BlackRock, with their funds, the Franklin Templeton, that was the first one that has the index money markets on-chain fund on Polygon. We have S&P Global that have also their a whole department super specific for the DeFi. And we heard a lot of numbers, 16 trillions, 50 trillions, 100 trillions, so it depends. So of course, we can bring numbers from our heads. But the most important here is that there is something that can be done with this tokenization and tokenized assets. Now, how can we make it reality? Okay. So tokenized assets, the way we see it, it could be a mean of investment and also a mean of financing. So to borrow money, to invest. Okay. So it gives us three most important things thanks to the tokenization. So there is the diversification. So as we said, access to variety of different assets and accessibility. And this is where easy access, because there is the fraction of assets, it will give access to more retail to get access to some investment that they couldn't have access before, which means access to more liquidity. Okay. And of course, efficiency, automated and atomic settlement. So we heard a lot about this, of course, and we know what are the benefits that can bring. Now, why it's not widespread? Why we have still a lot of companies, enterprise, asset managers that knows what are the benefits, but they still cannot use it. So I just want to take a step back and speak about something that happened in the blockchain space, which is we started to have a lot of blockchains. And then the question is, how can we make blockchain communicate between them? How can I transfer assets from blockchain to another blockchain? So we started to see new technologies emerging like bridges. But the bridge, it was a very good concept, a very good technology that link different blockchains and can transfer value from one blockchain to another. But what happened is that we started to see the same assets in one blockchain has multiple versions on the other chain. So which created a huge scattering of the liquidity. And we started to have rapid USDT or like rapid assets, like I don't know, XYZ and the tokens. And this is actually it's a solution that created a problem. But now we are going, but because of this, we saw what are the problem, and like technologically we are solving this to go even more lower layer. And we speak about the cross-messaging protocol, so we can transfer data and metadata. And on top of this, we are able to transfer value. Okay. So this is exactly what is happening now with tokenization. So apart from the standardization, interoperability, and of course, regulation and compliance, we have multiple tokenization platforms that are siloed. Each one can use specific types of tokenized standard. And hence, we don't have communication between this, which means that like we don't have like one pool of liquidity, but multiple, and liquidity is again scattered. Okay. So when we speak about interoperability, we always think about interoperability between blockchain, but actually there are three types of interoperability. The first one is between standard. When we speak about standard, we speak about the ERC standard within blockchain, within Ethereum, or within different other blockchain. So there are multiple standards. So the ERC20, 721, 1155, 1400. How can we make all these standards communicate between them? And every day there are more and more standards. The second one is the interoperability between blockchain, public with public, private with private, private with public blockchain. And the third one, which is actually, we don't discuss about it a lot, but it's one of the most important, is the incompatibility within legacy system. How can we make the decentralized technology interoperable with legacy system? And we can get step back and think about this layer on top of the legacy system that DBS has built to make access to other fintechs, other companies, to their legacy system so they can provide more services. So this is exactly what we need to solve. Okay. So we speak about most important topic, and Diana can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Rachid. So while Rachid just mentioned the technical aspects and technical challenges of wider adoption of asset tokenization, I will focus more on compliance challenges, right? And the first one on my list here is regulation uncertainty and fragmentation. And this is a very important one. And when it comes to new technology like blockchain or anything associated with blockchain, unfortunately, most of the regulators around the world are playing a catching up game. And there are a few reasons for that. As a person who used to work for regulator, I know this internally, how things are happening in there. One of the reasons is sometimes regulators are under-resourced. They don't have enough resources to flow and regulate these huge markets, financial services markets. Second of all, they sometimes lack experts in particular technology, experts in particular industry. And even if they do, even if they're well-resourced and even if they do have experts, sometimes they don't know what regulations they actually should either create from scratch for this new technology, or they should shoehorn this new technology into existing regulations. And this is, I think, where the challenges comes for regulators themselves. And that's why we have this uncertainty and fragmentation of regulatory frameworks across the world right now. As a result of these factors, yeah, as I mentioned already, we have this fragmentation, but also it's quite often unclear, you know, how regulations apply. Do the KYC and AML regulations that already exist, do they apply to these new technologies? I recently had a friend of mine who had tokenization platform. They asked me, Diana, as a compliance expert, can you tell us, please, do we need to do KYC and KYB of our investors and of our issuers? Of course, right now, you know, in majority of jurisdictions, if you look at it, the regulatory framework's non-existent. So when you look at the jurisdiction where they operate, I said, yes, you are not under regulations right now, but my compliance advice, you know, if I had to run your tokenization platform, I would definitely advise you to start as early as possible all the, you know, compliance processes from the beginning. Because if you don't do it right now when your tokenization platform is still new and just starting, later down the line, when the regulations actually hit and they come into force, it will be a bit too difficult and much more expensive to start introducing all those compliance processes because you already have a lot of clients, you have to re-KYC them again. And I can draw a parallel here. When I joined crypto industry back in 2019, I joined a small exchange. Nobody heard about them at the time. It was just a wallet at the time, actually not even an exchange. So 2019, again, regulations were patchy for crypto industry. In some countries, they were non-existent. But that particular exchange, how it attracted me when I was really scared to join crypto world at the time, coming from a traditional finance, you know, you're coming from a stable company, coming to a crypto world. And what attracted me in that crypto exchange with their senior management was very, very into regulations. You know, they said, we know regulations don't apply to us, but we want to be compliant from the start. We're just starting, we don't have so many clients, but we still want to apply all the KYC and AML standards for our clients. And this is what they did. And by the time, you know, when several years passed and we had vast registration, you know, we had 5th IMLD, anti-money laundering directive that came into force in Europe, and it applied to crypto industry as well. This particular exchange was already ready because they were doing from the beginning. They had all compliance policies and procedures in place. They had all the necessary compliance tools in place. They were ready to be compliant. But then there were some other exchanges that were thinking, you know, they were just ignoring that. They said, we are not supposed to comply, so why do we comply when there are no regulations? So they ignore the regulations that are coming in the future. And by the time the regulations hit, they were actually not well prepared. And that's why we're seeing actually the consequences, all the enforcement actions on a number of exchanges recently, just because they were not doing from the start. So when I have, you know, when I have to advise the tokenization platform, do we need to comply now or do we wait until the regulations actually hit? I'll say, you know, comply now. You need to understand who are your clients. You need to conduct your due diligence on your investors, right? If it's investor is a company, you have to know your business. You need to understand that this is a legitimate business, that they want to do business with you. When it comes to issuers, I want to say issue. When it comes to issuers, you need to conduct KYB. When it comes to investors, you know, if it's retail investors, you need to understand who these people are. Do they have any criminal background? You need to conduct due diligence. You need to conduct KYC. You need to understand, are these people sanctioned? Are they from sanctioned countries? Do they have any adverse media against them? Are they politically exposed persons? So you have to do this complete risk assessment of who are these people using your products and services. So it's absolutely important. Even if the regulations don't apply to you at this point in time, you will be, first of all, the first benefit, you'll be ready to the, you know, for the moment when the regulations actually come, and they're coming definitely, that like they came for crypto industry. We have MiCA now, right? So I'm sure like in 1-2 years time, we'll have absolutely stable framework for tokenization as well. And the other dilemma, you know, that faces sometimes asset classification, right? We had it before when I worked for crypto exchanges, where you go and you want to be regulated, you want to apply for a license, you want to be a legitimate business in that particular jurisdiction, but then you go and speak to the regulators, they don't know themselves this particular product, is it regulated by them or is it regulated by different regulators? Because quite often, you know, in every jurisdiction, there are several regulators that regulate financial markets. So recently, me and Rachid were speaking speaking to Dubai regulators, trying to understand where our product fits. Actually, are they planning to introduce any regulations around tokenization? And if it's a security token, it's regulated by ESCA, which is Security and Commodities Authority in Dubai, for example. But if it's anything related to crypto, it's a VARA, which is specific regulator that's created for these purposes. So then you kind of, as a business, you're getting completely confused, and you need to throw out so much legal and compliance resources just to understand this different framework of regulations. And it's really, really hard. So my advice for anybody who is looking, who is running tokenization platform or looking into it, regulations will come. You need to be compliant in advance, in advance as possible, because afterward it will be much costly to be compliant with those regulations. So be prepared, understand who you're dealing with, do proper KYC checks on your customers, issuers, and investors, both of them. That's it from me at the moment. I think it's because I already mentioned compliance tools, how important to have right compliance tools from the start. We're going to showcase you the demo of our compliance tool that we are already using for our tokenization platform to do all the KYC and AML checks on our issuers and investors. This is going to be a last slide in our presentation. So I'll pass over back to Rachid.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Diana.
Rachid. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there are in general like three players, of course. There is the market administrator, where it's the ones that need to deploy the markets, okay, for these tokenized assets, either like regulated assets or non-regulated assets. And we speak about inclusive and easy to deploy markets. When we speak about inclusive, there is also the interoperability, because if I have a platform or if I have a market, I create a market, I need to be able not only to tokenize assets, but I can also bring other tokenized assets to my platform. And even though they are in different standards, I need to be able to support them and to make them interoperable with the ones that I have. And this is very, very important. So I can aggregate liquidity. Okay, so this is what we need to do. The second part is the issuer. It should be super, super easy for an issuer to issue product. Now, the big problem is they will have access to the platform. They will need to pay for it. They will need, like, before even building the tokenized asset or structured product, they need to check with compliance, what are the rules. So sometimes it will take too much. They don't even want to do it. So we need to have sandbox for issuers to build products super easy and to deploy them on testnet and see how they work, play with them, check the rules, embed rules, compliance rules to them, change, like simulating also people that will interact with them. Much easier, even though so they can build a report and they can show it the compliance officer, and it will much easier. And of course, the investor should be super friendly. They don't need to know that there is blockchain behind, or I need to have a wallet, I need to pay for gas fees. It should be easy. One click button, I can get access to these tokenized assets. Okay, of course, they should, exactly as Diana said, they need to do KYC, and it should be super fast, super easy, super clear, and also having reusable KYCs. If I came to platform number one and I have done my KYCs, why not? I cannot reuse the KYC that I have. But of course, for here we need the ones that does the onboarding need to have certain licenses to be able to stamp it and so on. So, and of course, the compliance. So when we speak about the markets, the one that administrate the markets and the issuer, they need to have access to these compliance tools to be able to not deal with multiple different types of third-party providers, because sometimes it's absolute. So I need like to have like 5 different tools or 6 tools and then aggregate all the results into Excel file. And this, it's not helping. And this is also something that like all compliance officers are going through, even from the biggest exchange to just like companies that are doing business where they need to be compliant. Okay. So here it's a super example, like to show how easy it is to deploy markets. So this is what we have been building, and we have a team of more than 70 people. So the objective is to make it easy, not only in terms of the flow, but also of deploy market. So here, for example, I can choose, so the client is the Bank of Europe. I will go there. And then the objective is if we want to deploy it with a wallet address or if we want to deploy it without. So of course, for us, it will be very important to have it like just what we call on the blockchain account abstraction. But now we can have with email, we can have with every single classical login that we can do. Now we can choose either we are in the investments or we are on the financing spheres. Okay. And then imagine that I want to choose this. So I have some use cases. So either I want to have tokenized funds, either fully on-chain or tokenized fund that exists, debt, equity, arts, or I can have custom. I can even have like basket of assets that I want to tokenize, structure new product. So it should be very, very easy to do. Then, and this is what is the most important part. Most of the platforms, sometimes I will use only one asset to tokenize. We don't want this. We don't to be able, so as a market administrator, I want to be able to offer the opportunity to the issuer to easily choose any type of assets. And these assets, we need to make them interoperable between them. This is very, very important because this is the only way to aggregate the liquidity. Okay, so here we have multiple different assets that are supported. So there is the 3643, which is the T-Rex from Tokenai, which most of you knows. 4626 also, it's very important because this is something that is like the vaults, and many use these assets as well, and other type of classical assets. Okay, so then it's super easy. We can also choose which type of tokens we want for the investment. It could be like here, it's stables, but it could be also cash because we need to make it easy for people that are not within the blockchain. And everything else, it's super, I would say, classical. Then I think the most important thing for us, so in terms of the issuer, is exact same things. It's to make it easy for the issuer to issue products and to have also to build the compliance tool for them. Okay, so here we can see that he will basically issue product with the 20 or whatever types of assets, but also we spoke in the beginning about the interoperability. So if I am an issuer that already had a tokenized assets in another platform, I'm able to bring them and to wrap them and to have them within the platform. So I can aggregate all my different assets into one platform and I can reissue. Or imagine I am an asset manager that have bought a fraction of a real estate fund at $100,000. And then I have my clients, which can basically afford between $50 to $1,000 for fraction. So I can bring this 100,000 fraction. I can bring it, I can wrap it, I can fractionalize it, and I can give access. So this is also which can bring even more liquidity. Okay, so I know that we don't have a lot of time. So the most important also tools that we were speaking about is the compliance. So I will let Diana goes into the compliance and how easy it is to adapt. Here we go.
Yeah. So we'll showcase you this Nexera ID tool that we're using for compliance. You log in into the tool. Rachid, can you pause here a little bit just to show the dashboard? So here the tool is actually so amazing. As a person who's been in compliance for quite some time now, I know how tedious and very difficult for a compliance officer to do their job, because most of the time, like Rachid mentioned, we have to use 5, 6 different tools, log in into them separately. And then in order to bring this information from those different tools together, you have to have either Excel spreadsheet or some kind of manual work involved. Here in Nexera ID, we actually have everything in one place, a beautiful dashboard that shows you different statistics that you need as a compliance officer. You can have different tabs here for individuals, for corporations. Here you can see all your customers all in one place. I have to say that in any company I worked for before in crypto space, I've never seen such a beautiful dashboard actually anywhere, but here we have it all in one place, beautifully collected. You can then set up your workflow that you want to do in your Nexera ID dashboard. So you select Know Your Customer. Here we'll now select Know Your Customer. Yeah, Know Your Customer, because you want to KYC your customers. And then, yeah, go on. You select because we have different providers there. So you select Nexera ID IML and Nexera ID Know Your Transaction or Wallet Screening. And here's your dashboard for Know Your Customer. You select here and you can put any rules you want on your Know Your Customer. So if you want to reject customers from specific jurisdictions, from sanctioned countries, you have opportunity to do it here in this dashboard. So you as a compliance officer go and select, if a customer is from a sanctioned country, you adjust the risk score and you reject them immediately. And the rules engine is very customizable, so you can reject customers who are under 18, those who are from sanctioned countries. You can add more to the countries list if there are specific countries you want to prohibit. And here is actually, Rachid, if you can pause on this particular one a little bit, I want to show this is the customer profile, right? It's all in one place in the customer page. You can see user profile. If there are any alerts were generated on these customers, you'll be able to see here as well. And by alerts, I mean alerts when you do IML screening of your customer, right? You screen them for sanctions, you screen them for politically exposed person status, you screen them for adverse media because you want to ensure that the customer you onboard is actually not a criminal, right? So when there are alerts generated via IML screening tool, they'll all be displayed here under Alerts tab, and then your compliance officer can go and actually easily resolve all these alerts all in one place. You'll have KYC data tab for your customer where all his personal information will be displayed there, like his passport, his date of birth. Customer screening results, transactions will also be all in one place here. The most important thing, audit trail. As a person who've been under, I used to be a compliance officer. We used to have lots of regulatory audits. So very important, you know, to know, because sometimes regulators, they take a sample of your customers and they see what actions you perform. Very important here, we have audit trail. So you can see, you know, when this customer was rejected, why he was rejected. There are clearly written reasons why he was rejected. You know exactly nationality of this customer, which country he is from. I believe this one particular was rejected based on his country of nationality or country of residence, which is actually the same here. Activity logs, you know, if you have a lot of compliance officers working on different cases, on different customers onboarding, you can see who was working, who done what. So this is our platform, very clear, very easy, all with one click of a button. You can have all your compliance management all in one place, which is amazing. And this is what we do. Thank you so much. That's it from me, I think, Rachid.
Absolutely. So maybe something to add, which is very, very important, is when we speak about tokenization, indeed, so we have two ways of saying things. Either I will embed the compliance to the token itself, or I will have the whole compliance and regulations and rules that are connected to the token. So in case I am an investor, I am, for example, did the KYC, and then I became, at some point, I bought tokenized assets, but then either self-custodial or custodial, and then I become PEP. So I have my, like, everything, so that is doing the ongoing monitoring. And as soon as I flag that he's become PEP, automatically he will not be able to have access to this asset, for example. So this is very good, because what we see here, it's both for like the complete, like, traditional businesses that want to go to the tokenization, but also for people that, for example, have tokenized assets that are doing tokenized T-bills, and then they want to have pools. These pools, they are permissioned, but they wanted to have it in permissionless space. So we have these tools that we can build completely your rules. So here, I can completely do the workflows. So from the KYC to the identity verification, to the data sharing, to the AML screening, to the wallets, and of course we have transaction monitoring. We have everything around also, like fraud prevention, trade surveillance. So once you do all this, you are able also to add your rules that you can deploy on-chain. And then within the pool, I can basically have my on-chain gating, and I can say, okay, I can accept only people that have been KYC, that are more than 18, that are in the US, and so on and so forth. So this is, and we have always the synchronization between the off-chain world and on-chain. So anything happen off-chain, I can have it on the on-chain, specifically if someone become PEP or if someone flagged it. But on the other side, if someone has done any transaction within, for example, Mixer, so automatically he will be flagged, so he will be stopped. The good thing is also there is a lot of work that we are starting to do with custodians. So because people want to bring their custodians within the platform, so in case of transaction monitor and someone is flagged, I can stop and he will not have access until he can explain. Or it should be also self-custodial. So like, do you have like everything around, like even if you are self-custodial, but because the tokens is connected to all these rules on chain, so automatically, if the person is flagged, they will not be able to transfer the tokens or to sell it until they can explain what is happening. So this is why we spoke about the revolution. Revolution is twofold for us: the standardization, interoperability, which is how can I adapt standard? How can I wrap different standards to make them like in line with my platform? How can I aggregate my liquidity? How can I do this interoperability and have this layer on top that is interoperable with legacy system, and not only between blockchain and between standard? And the second angle, it is the compliance and regulation, which Diana has spoke about it. And we saw how easy it is to be able to implement these different rules. And even though there is no clear regulation yet for tokenized securities or for tokenized assets or for how can we do with real estate, But exactly as Diana said, we have to have everything, policies, AML, KYCs, all the tools for fraud, so everything to be able to be ready when the compliance comes. So this is exactly, it was our talk, the revolution, and happy to have your question.
Oh, great. It's great to have you. Thank you so much once again to Rachid and Diana. Also, it's great to have someone with my same name. It doesn't usually happen. But it was a really great presentation on real-world asset tokenization, the importance of compliance and implications, and also the importance of underlying standards, interoperability, and user-friendliness for the users to be able to track and see how the progress is going. Really, really great job. Again, I'm Diana. For those who didn't join at the beginning, I'm head of research and sustainability at GBBC, and I'll take questions now. So we're going to have a discussion. We've had some pre-submitted questions that we can start with. And as people type in their questions, we'll cover those as well. So to begin with, how can someone, and for everybody pretty much, translate blockchain, even certain cryptocurrencies, into the everyday usage for the many in Africa? We're thinking cases of financial inclusion. This might also apply for other regions in the world as well, in developing economies.
Absolutely, this is a very important question. So, and this is also why we believe tokenization, it is bringing like a huge benefit to this world. So, but maybe something very important to say that Africa, there are some regions that are very, very advanced, specifically the ones that the English part, Nigeria, Kenya. So they have already not a lot of cash. They already use not smartphone, but phone where they can pay like digitally. Sometimes people, they don't know how to read, and they are able actually to use the phone to be able to pay, to receive payment. So there is also this culture of digital payments. So I would not say how like basically make cryptocurrency into everyday. It's just about like the interface where people will interact with this. Okay, so compliantly. So we have to app, and then when I will pay, I don't need to know if it's stable coin or if it's these tokens or these tokens. We saw that a lot of central banks, they are working on the digital version. So I'm originally from Morocco, and I know that the Bank of Morocco, they are working on the digital dirham. So we know that there is also a lot of speaking about CBDCs, the digital euro, and so on. So there are all these initiatives, and I think the most important is on one hand the regulation compliance, because people that are using these payments, we need to be identify them. And on the other side, being able actually to have this user experience, user journey, super easy. I don't need to understand that I'm dealing with blockchain. It's just click button and that's it. So I think, and for us, we have some really cool use case where we speak, like we work with Toronet, which also backed by USAID, which has provided $100 million to be able to have like as guarantees for the loans that are taken by Nigerian farmer. And we are already like working with Toronet for all these the farmers to be able to get access to financing so they can do their businesses. It could be between $500 to $1,000, and this is done through tokenized loans, which is really cool. So we see that these farmers, they don't have access to traditional financing from banks, and banks, they don't even want to take the risk to give them money. But thanks to this, there are people around the world that are providing money to pools. These pools are used by Varian Corelli to buy tools that will lease them to these farmers, and then they will be able to do business, which means that will create value. And this is huge. So this is why really tokenization as a whole, cryptocurrency as well, like as particular things, I would say, will be able to have millions of people around the world.
That is fascinating. Truly fascinating, all the opportunity. So next question. Adoption of tokenization use cases requires designing solutions and educating the market. What is Evergon's go-to-market plan for 2025 and also beyond?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I would say we have been building the technology since 2019, so it's not something new. I remember back then when we speak about STOs, and we have already players like securitized, tokenized. So we have been building, and we were always focusing on our building on so on finance, we call market infrastructure. We have been focused on the token market infrastructure. Tokenization is one part. It's exact same way when we speak about the core banking solution, like companies like FNZ or Avaloq in Europe and UK and Switzerland. So like, how can we basically build bank just with some block modules that we can, and then we can have our own neobank? It's the exact same things I see this token markets infrastructure. So for us, we already have like few clients around the world. So we are working with people from Arabia Saudi, people from Nigeria for the farmers. We do tokenization of carbon credits. And now everyone was asking us, we don't have technical people. We want to be able to deploy. So we have two types of companies. So enterprise banks. And on the other side, we have like startups or mid-sized companies. Mid-sized companies, startups, sometimes they don't have a lot of developers. So they want to have something super easy as no code. Exactly what happened with Shopify. I can have my shop in 2 clicks. And this is what we showed. Super easy to deploy market, to bring issuers, to bring investors with all compliance. They don't need to understand, okay, I need to have my compliance officer that we need to do KYC. So everything is within the platform, and we provide this advice. So this is the no-code solution. And then on the other side, we have the infrastructure. And this is when we speak about like banks and big enterprise. They don't want to have a platform that is ready. They just need to have the APIs and SDKs, something that could interact with the legacy system, super easy to integrate. And this is exactly what we are working on. So we have around like 20 companies on the pipeline that we are working already on. We have some people that we have advising on some really super specific use case in tokenization, specifically one with Qatar, which is on the gold tokenization. And we are also having a regulatory strategy with Diana to go within MiCA, VARA, and we have Saudi Arabia and Qatar for the GCC, and also like to go to the US, because I think there is big markets, but we need to handle like everything around SEC. So yeah, so pretty good plan. We have like amazing teams. It's growing, and we are happy to be able to help also real use cases to come into life.
That is where all the trend is going. Fantastic to hear. Moving to the next question, that Rachid had mentioned something very interesting about being able to pay with any combination of assets. Could you go further into that?
Absolutely. So imagine I have my app and I have bought, for example, let's say I have a tokenized stock, which is Apple. And then I have bought, like I have a fraction of flats that I have bought as well. And then imagine that I have like some crypto on my side, stable coin, let's say. We don't speak about crypto. Let's say I have some stable that are like USDC. Okay, so there will be oracles behind so that can link these tokenized stocks, Apple, with the price. Okay, so I will have exchange that I can instantly swap it. I can have like my flat also, where I can have secondary market where I can sell this fraction. So just basically with clicking, selecting the assets, I want to buy this flat for $300,000. Then I will be able to select my stocks. I will be able to pick my tokenized real world assets. Maybe I have tokenized diamond, I have tokenized gold, I have all my portfolio. I can choose how much I want for each assets, and then I will just click and automatically, and this is why it's much easier with tokenized assets, because you will have this liquidity, which means that you can actually get the cash behind the scene and then transfer it. If it was in the normal world, I have my stocks, well, okay, I can sell it on exchange. But imagine I have a diamond, I need to go to someone to buy it from me physically. Imagine I have a gold, same things. I will need to put my gold and get the cash. And so it will take much more longer. But because of the tokenization, the liquidity, secondary markets, and the instant settlement, then the person can receive the cash, even though if I have paid with my multiple assets. So this is how we see the future. Cash, it will not be just the only king.
Excellent. We'll do one more question. I wish we had time for more, but what is the differentiating element of Evergon Labs, and what is the tokenization platform like?
Okay, so the most important differentiation, I would say, is the standard that we are looking. So I had like this, like last month, we were at San Francisco doing workshop in tokenization at Plug and Play Summer Summit. So we are founding partner of the crypto and digital assets of Plug and Play alongside Franklin Templeton and Visa. And then I was in the hotel and I wanted to have actually, to charge my phone. But the problem is I didn't have my, let's say the sockets because the American, it's not working. So I was looking for an adapter. And this is where I had this moment. And I said, all the technology we have been building in 3 years, actually it's act as adapters. So there will be never one standard that fits all. This is absolutely like we can dream, but it will never happen. However, we need to have adapters, things that can adapt something into something else, exactly like these sockets. Okay, and this is exactly our core value. So making sure to build this layer that can adapt an asset to another standard to another standard, or link a blockchain to another blockchain, or having it between the decentralized technology and the legacy systems. So these adapters are very important. And actually, if you remember when I saw on our platform that imagine that you have already done, did some tokenization of, let's say, real estate funds, and then it was done within, let's say, ERC 3649. And you want to bring it, but actually people are more interested into using 1400, like in Liechtenstein, VP Bank, they have done tokenization of arts, and it was done with 1400. So I can adapt my 3649 into 1400 with our adapter. Hence, I can provide this interoperability between one platform and second platform, which means I can have access to even more aggregated liquidity. So this is really the core. So this adapter that can solve the three interoperability problem that I said. Interoperability between standard, between blockchain, and between legacy system and the decentralized technology. So this is the core technological, I would say, value proposition. But on the other side is, as the platform, exactly what I showed. Click button, deploy the markets, invite issuers and investors, embed some rules of the compliance, and then you can already start doing your business.
That's great. Really promising solution, and we're so excited. Thank you, and Rachid, Diana, and Nexera for joining us today for this thoughtful and engaging presentation and Q&A on tokenization and everything around it. We look forward to learning more about Nexera's progress. A recording of this presentation will be circulated to all those who registered and also shared publicly on GBBC's YouTube channel. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.